Hey, folks, it's Jeff with the Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson, just bringing up John Hewitt. And if you think of the name Hewitt, there's been, for many, many years growing up, you used to see the tech service called Jackson Hewitt. And John Hewitt is he was the Hewitt side of that. Amazing conversation, brief, to the point, but that's what I would expect out of a fella that runs billion-dollar franchises. Um, Absolutely great conversation. Great conversation. Business and franchising. If you are looking to start a business or get into um, moving into the business world, and if you're uncertain, franchising is a great tool, especially in the right franchise. Not all franchises are created equal. Um, the work and effort that John puts into Liberty Tax and some of his brands that he has, their impact is felt. And you can see their location success just being open year to year inside of your community. So, John's a great listen. Let me know what you think. I'm excited for this episode, as I am all of mine. Each one of them has its own um, it has its own uniqueness. But here's what I hope. It's going to create these, holy crap, you get to have an audience of John Hewitt, this guy who's done business since business was a thing in his lifetime. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'd love to pass those along, maybe with a second episode with John. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate you following along. Check out this episode. Let me know what you think. All right, welcome back to the Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson. Today we're joined by a titan of the franchising world, John T. Hewitt. With over 50 years of experience, John is the founder and CEO of Loyalty Brands, a company that's reshaping how franchise systems work. From tax services to pet grooming, his ventures are diverse, and his career is packed with lessons on resilience, starting over, and building lasting success. John's story of losing majority ownership in his first company and bouncing back stronger is one that every inspiring entrepreneur needs to hear. Welcome to the Second Chance podcast, John.
Jeff, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, what inspired you to enter the franchising, particularly in the tax and business services industry?
I've been blessed so many ways. One way was my dad was an accountant, a controller of a company, and he always wanted to be self-employed. But he had too many children too quickly, and he grew up poor. But finally, when I was in college, he was ready, and he called H&R Block and asked to buy a franchise in the suburb of Buffalo that we lived in that didn't have an H&R Block office. And they said, well, as a matter of fact, we're going to open a company store there. Why don't you have our son take our tax course? So in the evenings, I took a tax course, loved it, most interesting course I'd ever taken. Started working with them as soon as the tax season started, every evening and weekends, and loved it. And that was how I got introduced. My dad was my inspiration.
Share more about the loss of your majority ownership in your first company, and then how it shaped your career. I think we need to know that, but how did we even get to that? What was that first company?
Yeah, my dad interceded again. 12 years later, I was running 250 H&R Block offices, and now my dad had grown to be CFO of a public company. And he had bought one of the first Apple computers by mail long before others. He bought one of the first million in the country, and in the 70s, and he liked it better than the mainframe that was running his public company. So we decided we should computerize taxes. So in 1981, we both quit our jobs and built the first tax software for an Apple computer. No one wanted it, way ahead of its time. Got blessed and found a company here in Virginia Beach called Mel Jackson Tax Service. Mel had died. We bought 6 offices from his widow. We merged the two companies, changed the name to Jackson Hewitt, and it became a $1 billion company. We sold it in 1997 for $483 million. So our $129,000 investment in 1982 turned into be a $483 million company. And that later became a $1 billion company.
And then where does your loss of that majority ownership, where does that come
In 1995, the IRS made a mistake in their software and in their program, and it really almost destroyed the tax preparation industry. It really caused devastation. It was so devastating that Tom Block, the last Block family member, resigned on April 9th of 1995. So in that, in almost being destroyed and almost going bankrupt, we had venture capitalists, and he decided that he could take over the company for a son because we were in such distress. So he initiated a civil war internally, and in 1995 he tried to buy the company for a little over $2 a share. 2 years later, the company was sold. 24 months later, the company was sold for $68 a share. So he really used that opportunity to try to take over the company. And in that battle, I ended up having to leave and turn the company over to others.
Oh, I got you now. I got you. What, as you rebuild, what does that look like for you? Um,
Yeah,
when
when I left the company in '97, I was able to take my top 4 people with me from Jackson Hewitt. And we looked around for something to do. And one of the things we thought about was, well, Canada has a tax system, and my 3-year non-compete doesn't cover Canada. And I had done Canadian tax returns while I was at H&R Block in Buffalo. And so we opened Liberty Tax in Canada in 1998. And we, within 3 years, quickly became one of the top 100 largest retail chains in Canada. So now I built one of the top 100 in Canada, one of the top 100 in U.S. And in 2000, when my non-compete ended, came back to the United States, and now I had to compete against my own name, my own software, my own system, my own people. And yet, not only did we go faster than Jackson Hewitt, we grew faster than them and H&R Block combined. We opened 4,000 offices in 12 years, top 10 fastest growing franchisor ever. My second public company worth $500 million. Again, I sold my stock and then founded my current company, Loyalty Brands.
when you're how did the experience in Canada, how did that influence your approach to franchising? Same rules, similar rules. How did it influence your approach?
Yeah, the exact same. It was the exact same system. It was, albeit the tax laws are completely different, except for it is a short season. It's a little different season. It starts about February 1st and ends April 30th instead of April 15th. But and customers seek the aid of assistance for people to help them prepare their returns for Revenue Canada. So in that sense, it's the same. They're all different laws, but they had the same storefronts, same relationships with retail organizations. For example, at Jackson Hewitt, we were in Walmart, and in Canada, at Liberty, we went into Walmart Canada. So we had similar retail relationships, retail locations, tax season, seasonality. But the big difference was what was deductible and what was taxable. they were completely different in each country.
I got you there. Yeah, you're synonymous. Like I told you, you're just as famous with me as some of the movie stars because I've seen your brands in all my walks of life, whether it be Jackson Hewitt or over to Liberty. And for the folks that don't know it, Liberty Tax, it's hard to miss it because generally there's someone dressed up in the Statue of Liberty. So marketing campaign is spot on too for competing for attention. So something that I
Yeah,
think.
that clearly set us apart. There, we didn't invent that. McDonald's, you're not old enough to remember a world where they used to have a Ronald McDonald out in front of their location, and Burger King used to have a little Burger King with a hat and a crown, and Wendy's had a little girl out in front with a red-haired wig. So I mean, we didn't invent that, but we're one of the only ones today that do that. And even at our new company, ATEX, we do that. We have an eagle. And it sets you apart because in the United States, there's over 35 million businesses trying to get your attention. And how many of them have a costume character out on the street waving at you and dancing? Only one or two. So it's a differentiator that sets us apart.
I think by the time I do, you're right, John. I remember coming along. I think those live people have been replaced by statues. So I'm not. I do remember the statues, but not the live person. So I didn't realize that was a live person up until I knew Ronald McDonald was in the commercial. So correct. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
What
that was 60 years ago.
what And what's your perspective on the biggest challenges that new franchise owners face today?
Ian, there's just so much competition for your attention. As I said, that back when I started in taxes in the 60s and 70s, I mean, you just had radio and TV and newspaper and direct mail and yellow pages. But now with the explosion of television, I had 3 channels when I was growing up. Now you have 300. My children have 300 channels. And there's no such thing as a computer, let alone the internet. And so we are getting so much bombarded with so many messages at every corner. In fact, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a mall. There was in the 50s they invented shopping centers where they weren't even shopping centers. There were all these downtown little shops, and then along came shopping centers, and then quickly followed by malls, quickly followed by incredible number of television stations, then your computer, then the internet. I mean, you are bombarded with thousands of messages a day trying to get your attention. And so your differentiators have to be clear because there's so much competition to build brand name today.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. But what are some of the common misconceptions about franchising that you'd like to challenge?
Well, the first one is this, that I guess there's two major huge errors people make. Number one, they think that if you acquire a franchise, it's an automatic success. Well, come to find out, in this country, there are 4,000 franchisors, and 3,000 of them are failures. So if you join a Liberty Tax or a Jackson Hewitt or an H&R Block or an ATAX or a Zoom and Grumman mobile Grumman, then that's a ticket to success. But most franchisors are losers, and they mostly go out of business. 80% of them that have been founded in the 21st century have already gone out of business. And so one thing is, be careful which franchise system that you join. And the key is very simple, and it's hard to believe that people fail because this concept is very simple. It's happy, successful franchisees. If you have happy, successful franchisees, you're going to grow exponentially. If you don't, you're going to fail. And unfortunately, most franchisors, parent companies, want a happy parent company franchisor before they want a happy franchisee, and they don't understand it's the proverbial chicken or the egg, right? You have to have successful franchisees before you have successful franchisor. The second thing is most people make the mistake of becoming mom and pops because they think it's cheaper. Well, they don't understand when you start up a business, and I've not only have I started up a bunch, but dozens, but successful. But I brought in over 5,300 franchisees in my career. So I've helped over 5,300 people start. And what they don't understand is when you build a business, it's not just dollar financial investment. It's a huge time commitment. The time commitment is more important than your financial commitment. You know, the only irreplaceable resource is time. You can replace money easily. I mean, won't say easily, but you can replace money. You can't replace your time. And so what you get when you get a great franchise, part of a great franchise system, is you get a proven recipe, a proven model, a proven system. You don't have to go out and invent. If you start your own business, you have to go out and make decisions. How much do you charge? How much do you pay your employees? How many hours per product? How do you get a location? Do your employees have contracts? You have hundreds and hundreds of little decisions you have to learn. Well, there's no CEO school in this country. I've been in the school of hard knocks for 33 years, or I'm sorry, 42 years I've been a CEO. Good. And so I've learned the hard way. My mistakes save you money, save you time. When you don't listen to me, it's going to cost you time or money or both. So you're going to do better. And that's why, Jeff, 95% of franchisees that start 5 years later still exist. Only 5% of non-franchisees that start today will be alive and kicking 5 years from now. So you have 19 times more likely, almost 20 times more likely to succeed if you're part of a franchise system than if you do it on your own. So those are the biggest misconceptions. Not every franchise is great, number one. And number two is you're generally better off joining a franchise system than starting out from scratch.
Yeah, I'll speak to that as well. I own a franchise gym, and absolutely the systems and processes. And when you look at just the brand alone, folks, what John's talking about, if you're getting ready to start a business, if you listen to my episode, you'll hear me talking about the power of a coach, and that's just a time collapse. It's just a collapse time to give you more, to create a path from wherever you're trying to go, or where you are to where you're trying to go. Coach collapses that. Franchise does the same thing in a business world. The idea behind the franchise is John has done all the things that need to be done, and he has failed multiple times to perfect this system that you're able to deploy. And if you follow the script, so that's basically what it is. If you follow the script, your path to profit becomes way shorter than if you try to figure some of the stuff out on your own. John, and speak to that as well. If I wanted to come in and in any franchises, a lot of times you don't have to have experience in that industry. Franchise will help train you up.
Yeah, out of the over 5,000 franchises that I brought into income tax alone, half of them didn't know anything about taxes. They never done a tax return, let alone worked in a retail location. Half of them had experience. They either had worked at H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt or Liberty or a mom and pop, or they were an accountant. They had done tax returns before. The half of the people that didn't know anything about taxes did, on average, better than the half of the people that did. That's for a very simple reason. Each of them, when you have experience, you've made mistakes or you have bad habits. And so many times I would hear people at training who had already been in the business say, well, that's not the way I've been doing this 11 years. That's not the way I do it. Well, guess what? The reason you're here and being trained by me is I know how to do it better than you do. And if you don't change, if you do what you always did, you get what you always got. So the people that have experience have been unwilling to change. They've been unwilling to improve. And they say they want to improve. Everyone says they want to improve. Everyone. But improvement requires change. And to succeed, it requires discomfort. I require you to, if you want to be massively successful, you have to be uncomfortable. And most people shy away from discomfort.
Yeah, no bad habits. Those folks that don't know, they don't have those bad habits. That's You're spot on. How have you adapted your business approach to changes in the economy and technology over the years?
It depends on the industry. Well, one thing is certain is that if you're not improving, your competitor's gaining on you. And as I just said, improvement recovers re, re, it requires change. And so every year, what we do, Jeff, is we sit down with our franchisees and our top staff, and we brainstorm. And we also at our convention we break into small groups and say, tell us how to improve our marketing, tell us how to improve our support, tell us how to improve our customer interaction, and we write down every idea. And even no matter how, if it's dumb or brilliant, we write everything down. And then we get into the management team with a few selected franchisees, meets and decide what are we going to change this year? What are we going to change sometime in the future? And what are we never going to change? And I'm proud to say that doing this over 30 years, more than 50% of the ideas that we hear are implemented the very next year. So we have to be, again, I'm fanatical about winning. To win, I have to have the best system. To have the best system, it has to be improving. And so we're never resting. We're always learning. And, even I've been in business for 55 years. I'm still learning things. I learned a great lesson, even just a simple lesson last week. I was talking to a possible investor in my Zoom and Grooming brand and my mobile pet grooming that's already in 3 years, the largest in the country. But he brought up a word that I'd never heard of, and come to think of it, it makes sense. But he said, I called you because we're interested in the humanization of pets. And I had never thought of that. I mean, I had thought about it this way. I described it this way, that I love the pet industry because people are having pets instead of children, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. And those people that have both pets and children, 2/3 of them like the pet better than the children. And so in one word, that says it all. It's the humanization of pets, right? That they are being treated as members of the household, much more than it was 10, 20, 30 years
ago. You're spot on with that one, with the humanization of pets. You see that more and more. But tell me, can you explain how loyalty brands integrates multiple industries under one umbrella?
Yeah, we have 8 brands, and we have 3 different initiatives. One is tax and accounting, which I've been doing for 55 years. Secondly is construction, led by our roofing, siding, and solar. And then thirdly is pets, everything pets. And we just acquired a storefront grooming brand. Last month. So we've had the mobile grooming for 37 months, and now 1 month we've had that. We're negotiating by picking up poop business, and that's amazing how lucrative it is. Now, how much the demand there is for it. You know, you have a big dog in a small yard, and we're out picking up poop every week or two in your neighborhood. So, I mean, we're looking at everything pets. So we have focus, each of those three focuses, but also we cross market. For example, our largest Zoom agreement has 5,000 customers in their database. Well, 5,000 of them need tax returns. And so we offer them our A-Tax franchise relationship. And our largest tax offices have 6,000 customers, and over 4,000 of them have pets. So we offer them grooming. So we're cross-marketing across the different industries and presenting the opportunity to, because we're trusted. You know, if you're doing someone's tax return, you're sitting with them, you're a trusted advisor. If you go to their door and pick up their pet and take it out to your van and you bring the pet back to the owner, I mean, they hug you. They're so happy that of the job you've done. You're a family member. It's so much easier to get a referral.
How does the roofing play into that? All of them need roofs too, right?
Exactly. You need a roof every 15 years, approximately, and it needs to be inspected every year. So every home typically has 3 people, which on average 2 of them file tax returns. And so when we're doing tax returns for people that own homes, we can introduce our roofing service.
Is it, and let's speak, because I have a lot of folks that talk to me about focus, and is this taxes was moving forward, and it sounds like it was successful before we started layering in the other 2 parts of your brand. Would that be safe? Help me out there.
All of them, yes, all of them are standalone successful. And all of them have a staff, a CEO and a staff that run the brand that are totally focused on that brand.
What strategies do you believe contributed most to the success of the brands?
The key starts and ends with 2 things: happy, successful franchisees and happy, successful employees. You know, I mentioned happy, successful franchisees earlier. If the franchisee makes money and I don't, it doesn't work. And if I make money and the franchise doesn't, it doesn't work. It only has to be win-win in order to succeed. And back before about 1995, 30 years ago, the buzzword in society, or in business rather, is customers number one, customers number one. And in fact, our mission statement at Jackson Hewitt, we set it up in 1991, was winning customers for life. And then along came people like Southwest Airlines Herb Kelleher, who wrote a book called Nuts, N-U-T-S, Nuts, because they were kind of nuts at Southwest Airlines if you've been on a flight. And he said, no. If you want your customer to be treated as number one, you have to treat your employees as number one. So the thing that is consistent across all of our brands at Loyalty Brands is happy, successful employees, happy, successful franchisees. We're all franchise companies. And that's a competitive advantage, because in every system in this country, franchisees outwork, out-hustle, outperform company employees. And that's because they act like owners. You know, I have tens of thousands of employees in my career. And yet, even though I'm fanatical about searching for just the right people who act like owners, I've only been able to get less than 5% of my employees act like owners. But boy, almost 100% of my owners act like owners. So our owners beat the company locations of our competitors. Here's a simple example. At H&R Block, they're open from 9 to 9 Monday through Friday. and so are we. However, I love driving by an H&R Block at 8:45 in the morning and seeing the customer standing outside, especially in a cold weather area, and the taxpayers inside playing on the computer because they're like a bank. They don't open till 9 a.m. Well, because they're employees. Now, what would you do if you were the owner? You'd open the door and let them in. And then at 9:05, there's a knock on the door, and they've locked their door at 9 o'clock. And the block preparer won't even get up out of his chair. He'll wave you, come back tomorrow, come back tomorrow. Well, what would you do? You're on that business. That is your lifeblood, right? That customer standing out there, half of them aren't going to come back tomorrow. Half of them are going to go find somewhere else. So that's your lifeblood. You're not going to let that guy get away. So that's our competitive advantage is happy, successful franchisees, happy, successful employees, yields happy, returning and referring customers.
You hit it on the head. I was talking with an owner in an old WT position, and I take ownership. I'm that in there 5%. Like when I'm on your team, I'm telling you, I'm treating it like it's mine. And I was having to explain to him, not everybody's going to take ownership in your company. And he was struggling with it. I like the way you just framed it with owners take ownership. And franchising is one of the best keys to build that. That's awesome. You touched on some things I wanted to point out. Is Loyalty Brands helps franchises stay financially stable and long term. Some of this is through your ground up, and a lot of these ideas and strategies come up from your franchisees. They see what's going on. They're owners, and they know the things, and all this is processed and it's vetted through your top level of your franchise. So that's one of the ideas. Is there anything else that just helps create that financial stability for your franchisees long term?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one is we try never to let our franchisee get stretched, and because they'll try to outstretch and out. I made that mistake in the past. I almost went bankrupt in 1988 from overexpanding. So I've cautioned thousands of franchisees into don't slow down. There's plenty of time. You can do that next year. You need people and you need money to be able to do that. You're endangering your future. So part of it is mentorship. And secondly, if they get into trouble through no fault of their own, especially, there could be construction in front of, they tear up a whole road in front of your wonderful location for 6 months during the tax season. And so your traffic is diverted from your location, or there's a hurricane or a flood or a natural disaster or a fire. Your office burns down. Certainly we're there to step in management, in money, in resources to help you make it through the tough periods. Because when you have thousands of offices, you're going to have calamity in some of them. And unfortunately, it's only, 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 500 typically will have a problem. But I remember back at Jackson Hewitt, we had one franchise. He was involved in the riots in Los Angeles in Watts. I think it was Rodney King, and they burned down his office. And so there's going to be stuff happens, and it's good to have a partner like us that's ready to step in and help you, both financially and through people resources, to make sure that you can stay in business.
John, what do you do in some of your off time? What is some of the projects you enjoy doing outside of your building these amazing businesses?
I have so many people around the country, and I travel every week. And so I brought in 5,300 franchisees, and they had hundreds of thousands of employees. And so, for example, this week I'll be in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'll be meeting ex-franchisees and current franchisees at my former companies at at Liberty Tax, for example, and I'll be meeting potential franchisees at Loyalty Brands. And I've had so many great people that I've been partnered with over the years, and franchisor, franchisee, they were quasi relationship between family, customer, partner, friend. I mean, they're have many hats, and so I get to rub shoulders with people that I've been dealing with, and that's why we call it loyalty. I mean, even inside our company, I have one guy been with me 54 years, two 37-year-old years, a 33-year person, lots of 20, I mean, a dozen 20-year or more. So I just have tons of people. So, and the only really significant activity I do during my, if there was such thing as off time, is I play bridge and I play chess. And mostly I play in a bridge tournament once a year, and I play chess online every day.
That's awesome, man. John, I feel like I'm only scratching the surface and getting to know you, and I'm excited to follow along with you. But as we wrap up, um, what advice would you give to someone starting their first franchise business today?
I just did a webinar. It's on my website about what we look for. It's about a half hour, and what we look for in becoming a franchise or even starting a business. Because what I've learned, Jeff, is that 2/3 of the people in this country, they want to be self-employed. But out of my 5,300 that I brought in, about a quarter of them should never have been self-employed. So I take them through that process. So you need to decide whether you should be self-employed, whether you can take the risk, and then what industry you should be in, and then which vehicle. Should you do it yourself? Should you acquire a franchise? If you acquire a franchise, which franchise? Should you put your toe in the water and test it and work for someone first before you leave your job, and so forth? So it takes me a half hour, but you can get that free on loyaltybrands.com, but a whole presentation on whether you should step out of your career and become self-employed.
I'll speak to that. I'm going to echo the things that John said in the power of franchise. Um, if you're looking to get into business and you are aligning in these industries, he has a done-for-you system. This is our first time here selling you on John stuff, but I can tell you I've owned a franchise, and I can talk all day long to the power of the news. And I will agree, some are better than others, and there's a process, and John does everything he possibly can to make sure that all of those unknowns and the uncertainties are put to bed before you even create a conversation with them, and that's that in itself is super powerful. And John, it's all I got. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking a few minutes with all your accomplishments to spend a few minutes with me and my audience and help us learn more about you and learn more about the impact that you've had in the business world before my life and through it, and it will continue to be felt beyond both of our times, I feel like. So I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been my pleasure.
All right. John Hewitt on the Second Chance Podcast.